Okay, picture this. It's summer 1999. Quiet cornfield out in Missouri. A woman's driving by, spots something, chilling. It's a body, partially decomposed.
Grim discovery. And right away, there are questions.
Big questions. No clear cause of death, no obvious motive, and he's found, get this, 15 miles from where he was last known to be.
15 miles is a long way if you don't have transport.
Exactly. But here's the detail that really makes this case, well, unforgettable. In the victim's pockets, 2 handwritten notes, just a mess of letters and numbers, seemingly total gibberish.
Indecipherable.
Completely. And that's the story of Ricky McCormick. His body found June 30th, 1999, St. Charles County, Missouri. And those notes, they've made his death one of the FBI's biggest unsolved mysteries.
Still unsolved today.
Still unsolved. So today we're going to really dig into this. We'll look at McCormick's death, the FBI's frankly unprecedented struggle to crack this code,
Yeah.
and then there's the family. Their side of the story adds a whole other layer of confusion.
It really does.
Our goal here is to try and understand why this case, after more than 2 decades, just refuses to be solved. So yeah, let's get into the Ricky McCormick notes case.
What's so fascinating right from the start is you have this potential key. It could solve a homicide. It's right there, physically with the victim.
You'd think that's a huge lead.
Absolutely, but it's locked up in a cipher, a code that nobody, not the FBI, not expert cryptanalysts, nobody has cracked. And that forces you to ask, why? What makes this code so stubborn?
It's the question hanging over everything. So
Oh,
let's
yeah.
start at the beginning. The discovery itself, June 30th, 1999. A woman driving near Route 367 near West Alton, Missouri, sees the body in a cornfield.
Yeah, and it takes a bit to identify him. Fingerprints eventually confirm it's Ricky C. McCormick, born June 58, so he was 41.
41. And the estimated time of death was a few days earlier, maybe June 25th to 28th.
Right.
Now, his background, it sort of deepens the puzzle. He was a high school dropout, lived in various places around St. Louis, sometimes staying with his elderly mother.
Had some health issues too, didn't he? Chronic heart and lung problems.
Yeah, exactly. Unemployed, received disability welfare. And he did have a criminal record. Served about 11 months for statutory rape sometime before.
Okay, so not someone living a completely stable life, perhaps.
Seems that way. But then the investigators start looking into his last days, and the questions just pile up. Like we said, 15 miles from his last known address.
And he didn't own a car.
No car.
Yeah.
And the area where they found him. No public transport.
Yeah.
So how? How did he get all the way out there?
That's a huge gap.
Huge. And get this. Nobody had even reported him missing.
Wow. So he disappears, ends up miles away dead, and no one's officially looking for him yet.
Right. The last time anyone confirmed seeing him was 5 days before his body was found, June 25th. He'd been at Forest Park Hospital in St. Louis apparently for a checkup. It's closed now, that hospital.
Okay.
So the authorities, they treated it as a possible homicide from the start, but they couldn't pin down a cause of death or a motive, just nothing solid.
And if you think about that from an investigative standpoint, I mean, no clear cause of death, that's tough. Plus, this geographical issue, he's somewhere he seemingly couldn't get to easily.
Right.
That immediately signals major problems for the investigation, even before they really focus on the notes.
Yeah.
You don't have a clear starting point, no obvious crime scene, no witnesses popping up.
So those notes,
Yeah,
they became everything.
they became the main hope, yeah. The primary thread to pull on.
And let's talk about those notes. They are the absolute core of this mystery. 2 handwritten pages found in his pockets. The FBI described them as a jumble of letters and numbers occasionally set off with parentheses.
Just looks like random characters, maybe some groupings.
Exactly. And the FBI, specifically their cryptanalysis unit, CRRU, they call it, Cryptanalysis and Racketeering Records Unit, they were convinced these notes were vital. They believed they could lead them to whoever killed him.
And CRRU, they're the pros. They deal with codes all the time, not just complex military stuff, but like criminal codes, gang ciphers, things like that.
Right. The chief of the unit back then, Dan Olson, he actually said, breaking the code could reveal the victim's whereabouts before his death and could lead to the solution of a homicide. Direct quote.
High stakes. They clearly thought this was solvable and important.
Hugely important. But here's the thing, and this is maybe what fascinates people, especially if you like puzzles. The FBI's own experts at CRRU, they couldn't crack it.
Nope.
And they weren't the only ones. They even brought in the American Cryptogram Association, basically. The best amateur and professional code breakers outside the government.
And they couldn't crack it either.
Nothing. It remains one of CRRU's top unsolved cases,
Yeah.
just sitting there,
Yeah.
defying everyone.
You know, looking at the notes themselves, what makes them so tough isn't just that they're scrambled, it's that they don't seem to follow the usual rules. When cryptanalysts look at a code, they hunt for patterns, right? Like, how often does E appear in English?
Yeah, frequency analysis.
Exactly, or repeated sequences, things like that. Those are the fingerprints of a standard cipher system. But these notes, they don't seem to have those clear patterns.
So what does it mean?
Well, it could mean a few things. Maybe it's truly random scribbling like the family suggested later, or maybe it's a system that's so personal, so idiosyncratic to the writer, that it just doesn't fit any known template. It breaks all the rules because it never followed them.
Like a private language only he knew.
Possibly. Which then raises that other question. Why carry something like that around, especially if it relates to, your final moments or dangerous circumstances? It's a very, very strange piece of potential evidence. Maybe a message she wrote, or something someone else wrote.
And the FBI's frustration really comes through with what they did next. In March 2011, remember, this is 12 years after his death, they did something pretty rare.
The public appeal.
They put images of the notes online on their website and basically said, hey, public, any ideas?
Which is basically admitting we're stuck.
Totally. And the response was apparently overwhelming. They got swamped. So many emails and calls with theories that they had to ask people to stop contacting them directly.
Yeah, they set up a special web page just for people to submit ideas about the McCormick notes.
Just think about that. The FBI turning to crowdsourcing to solve a potential homicide code. It really shows you how desperate they were.
It does, a real measure of the mystery.
Okay, so you've got the FBI absolutely convinced these notes are the key, throwing massive resources and even public appeals at it. And then you hear from Ricky McCormick's family.
And it's like whiplash, a completely different perspective.
Completely. In 2012, after the FBI's appeal brought the case back into the news, his family members spoke out. And they said they never knew Ricky to write in any kind of code.
They were skeptical, to say the least.
Very skeptical. They told reporters they'd actually informed investigators years earlier that Ricky sometimes just, quote, jotted down nonsense he called writing. They seriously doubted he had the ability to create something like these notes.
So they're saying it might just be scribbles, meaningless marks.
Pretty much. His mother, Frankie Sparks, was really direct about it. She said the only thing he could write was his name. He didn't write in no code.
Wow.
And a cousin, Charles McCormick, backed that up, saying Ricky couldn't spell anything, just scribble.
Okay, that really complicates things. If the person whose pockets they were found in might not have even been capable of writing them.
Exactly. It blows the whole thing wide open. You have the FBI, the expert, saying this is a vital coded message. And you have his own mother saying he couldn't write, he just scribbled.
Right.
Who do you believe?
It forces you to reevaluate everything. Did Ricky write them somehow, despite what his family thought they knew? Or did someone else write them and put them in his pockets? Maybe before he died, maybe after.
And why? What would be the purpose?
And there's another strange detail with the family, isn't there, about when they found out about the notes?
Oh, yeah, that's right. Get this. Apparently, when Ricky's body was found, officials told the family about other things in his pockets. Wallet, keys, whatever. But the encrypted notes, the family says they only found out about those 12 years later.
12 years.
12 years. When the FBI made that public appeal and it hit the local news.
So for over a decade, the family potentially didn't even know about this central piece of evidence the FBI was working on.
According to them, yes.
Yes.
Which is odd, to say the least. Why wouldn't they have been told about everything found on him, especially something so unusual?
That delay is another puzzle piece that doesn't quite fit. It highlights this stark contrast. The FBI's professional analysis versus the family's very personal lived experience of Ricky.
It's a clash of narratives.
It really is, and it makes you question the origin, the authorship, the purpose of those notes all over again. Whose message is it, really, if it's a message at all? The implications for the investigation are just huge, depending on which path you lean towards.
Yeah, it's not just about cracking a code anymore. It's about figuring out the entire context around these pieces of paper.
Exactly. Context is everything here.
And that brings us right back to where we started, really. Ricky McCormick. Dead in a cornfield, miles from home. Cause of death, unknown. Killer, unidentified. And these 2 pages of script, still unreadable.
Despite all the effort, all the eyes on it, the core mystery remains. We don't know how he died, how he got there, or what, if anything, those notes are trying to tell us.
So many unanswered questions about his final days and this potential message he carried.
Mm-hmm.
So here's something to think about as we wrap up. What if the reason the code is so hard to break isn't because it's super complex, like some military cipher? What if it's the opposite?
You mean like too simple or too personal?
Yeah, maybe it's so deeply personal, like a memory aid only he understood, or just random scribbles like his family thought. Maybe that's why standard cryptanalysis doesn't work. It's looking for patterns that just aren't there in the way it expects.
It's operating outside the normal rules of code making.
Right. Or, here's another thought. Maybe we focus too much on what the notes say. What if their real significance isn't the content, but just the fact that they exist? That they were found with him?
Regardless of who wrote them or what they mean.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Maybe their presence itself is the clue. A silent marker pointing towards something hidden. A story we haven't figured out how to read yet.
A different kind of message entirely. That's definitely something to mull over.